everyone. Good Friday evening. I'm WSAZ's Kimberly Keagy. We certainly appreciate you joining us here for the WSAZ Plus studio. We've made it to Friday, and that's certainly something to celebrate. And so I thought I would jump on here and we would talk about some of the headlines that we are following in our late evening shows, the 10 and 11 o'clock, and some of the big stories today that we're following. We know, obviously, this past week, weather has been a huge story that we've covered as we've had a lot of people kind of try to make it through some of that weather. We know it has been certainly very tricky for a lot of people, even businesses, small businesses in particular. For a lot of us, it felt like life was on hold for quite a while. And I think some people are just looking forward to that weekend, trying to get out and about. I can tell you I was trying to get the ice that was stuck on my driveway off today, and so I felt like I could skip my gym workout after that. I think that's what a lot of people are feeling, right? We're all kind of just in this lull period as we have finally made it out of the ice and the snow impact those first few days. But we can't let our guards down yet. Our team is tracking some pretty cold temperatures over the next couple of days, and that's why we still have some first alert weather days today, Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday. Look, I'm already jumping ahead to Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those are some things that we're going to have to keep an eye on is those brutally cold temperatures, really the wind chill being a huge factor. Warming shelters have been opening up all across the region. That's something that we've heard a lot of people do. And I even remember us sharing a story this week, and I had never heard of somebody doing this. But here in Cabell County, the EMS services was helping provide transportation to and from shelters for people who are unhoused. If they were traveling from the hub to Harmony House, they said, hey, let's make it a little bit easier on them. Obviously, we know those Arctic temperatures and just the wind chill can be enough for a lot of people. So they said, hey, we're just trying to make it a little bit easier. And of course, you have to think about all that ice and snow buildup that we had too. So that was certainly a big thing. So that was one story that we covered this past week. Let's go ahead and look at some of today's top stories. And I'm going to pull up some video for us so we can all talk about it. Another really big story, and it's hard to believe, I feel for the people that have had to deal with this as their lives the last couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and pull up some video here. This is from the Wayne water situation. So we now know it's been 2 weeks since we had first heard about the do not consume order for the people, the thousands and thousands of families that live in Wayne. That decision made after the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection found oil had spilled, and that followed an incident of vandalism at an Appalachian Power substation in the Eastland Fork area. And so that has really been a big story that we followed the last couple of weeks. Here's what we can tell you today. It marks 2 weeks since the first do not consume order was put out. And you have to think, those people have not only went through the ice, but they've gone through without any running water in their homes. They can't drink it. They can't use it. They can't even bathe or do laundry in it. You can't even boil it. And so there have been water distribution sites set up throughout the areas and nearby areas to help make those families' lives a bit easier in a really challenging time. So today, here's what we can tell you. The decision made not to lift the do not consume order. That decision made after the latest round of testing. The West Virginia Department of Health says, the latest testing found transformer oil in the town of Wayne's water plant. And so it's, like we said, been 2 weeks that people have had to rely on bottled water to cook and drink. So they are reminding people anybody needing water can stop by one of those distribution sites, and those are available at Wayne Town Hall and the Eastland Fire Department. Now, we did talk with Mayor Danny Grace, who said, you know what, he is also struggling. He said, I live in this area too. This is something I'm having to navigate. And so let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say.
I know it's frustrating. It has been for everybody, including me. I live in this town and I have family and grandchildren here too. So, I've got concerns too.
So that was Wayne Mayor Danny Grace. He was sharing his frustrations as also with the situation. And so, we're going to be following this. When you think about the barriers and the challenges of this entire situation, we know that a similar situation was also reported today in Wyoming County, West Virginia. There was also the details very eerily similar when you were talking about the crux of the case there, and they also had an oil spill that had leaked into nearby water supply from a substation. And so that is also another story that we're following. And really one question that comes to mind is, how does this keep happening? And that's something that we are going to try to get answers for, because we know there are so many families that are their lives have been uprooted from this. And so also in our headlines this afternoon, we have had for some people that live in Kanawha County, there has been, let's go ahead and see if I can get that video. There we go. Oh, not the right one. Here we go. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Sometimes technology just doesn't work. I was pushing the button one too many times. So, for people who live in Kanawha County, they've really had to detour in the last couple of days after a bridge was shut down. Now, let's go ahead and break this down, because when our reporter Abby Lord was working on this story, there was a few things that were quite interesting about this. So, there was a routine inspection done on this bridge. And you don't normally see road crews doing this type of work in January, right? We normally see that when it's a bit warmer out, so it was quite odd. But the West Virginia Division of Highways says, no, this work was so necessary that we had to do it in January. So let's go ahead and kind of give you the background on this. West Virginia Division of Highway crews say when they were doing a routine inspection of this bridge in Kanawha County, it's known as the Middle Fork Bridge near Middle Fork Drive. They found in May of last year that there were some steel beams that were deteriorating underneath. And so they said, hey, we're going to keep a close eye on this. It's okay to drive right now, but we're going to come back in a couple of months and check on this. So bridge inspectors came back out just this past Tuesday, and that's when they said, you know what, we've got to shut the bridge down. They had noticed that those steel beams were deteriorating far more than they had liked. And they said, you know what, we're going to shut the bridge down. So today we saw West Virginia Division of Highway crews. They said they were bringing in a 55-foot temporary bridge to help people navigate around that area. And now this bridge, the temporary one, will serve until they're able to do a full bridge replacement project in that area. Crews tell us likely maybe about work is going to take till Tuesday or so. But, for people who've had to live in that area, they've had to do some detours around that area and be a little bit more creative in how they're getting to and from their locations. So that has really been tricky, and not only tricky, but they're having to say, hey, we're going to go this route or go this route. So, that's another big story that we're following also this evening. And you know what? I think this one is so cool. And if you maybe are in need of a shovel, they've been hard to find, right? We had that winter storm. Check this out. So the Cabell County Public Library System, they are going to let you check out shovels. Maybe you wanted to go into the library and check out a book. Well, they said, hey, we've realized there's a need in our community. So they have a few shovels on hand that people are able to just use their library card. They can check them out for a week or so, and sometimes that stuff is hard to find, or maybe it's not in your family's budget. And so they said that, this has been a great resource for people. And they also have sleds for kids to check out too. They said, they've been the hot commodity though this week because they're not available. They're all checked out. But, those are just different resources that the communities have really offered over the last couple of days. And I think, when we're all in kind of the thick of that winter weather, we're trying to navigate just how tricky that can be sometimes. But I do think there's so much beauty in just finding and seeing the people that really step up to help serve our communities. So, if you know of somebody that said really has gone above and beyond, I'd love you to shoot me a message and tell us about them, because I think that's such a great reminder of all of the work and just to see people go above and beyond. Hey, how can I help you today? Or can I check on your neighbor? I love to hear stories like that. So please spread the positivity. Shoot me a message in my inbox. You can send me an email. My email address is on WSAZ.com, or send me a message on Facebook. I would love to hear about that because, there are so many people that deserve recognition, especially I think about all the first responders, the snowplow drivers, the linemen that have worked, and the contractors that have worked to get power back on, particularly in Kanawha County. We know at the peak of the storm on Sunday, there was about 20,000 people without power at times. And so to know that there are so many people that step up in our communities to be able to help them and, just make our lives a little bit easier during some really tricky times. I would love to be able to, celebrate them and give them a thank you that they deserve for certain. So we know the weather is not only impacting us here, but remember, another big talker this week has been the southern snowstorm that's going to hit. And so, Florida certainly seeing some chillier temperatures over the last couple of days. I feel for anybody who's gone for vacation there and they thought they were escaping the cold, and then turns out, well, they're going to get the cold. So, like we said, it's not only impacting us, it's impacting all across the country. And in Florida in particular, they ended up canceling what was going to be the launch mission rocket test today for Artemis. NASA saying, hey, we're going to hold off on that crucial test launch. They said, really, the cold temperatures and wind were to blame. Now, this was really supposed to be a dress rehearsal for the Artemis 2 mission around the moon, and the countdown simulation test originally set for this weekend, though, and that involved loading the rocket with hundreds of thousands of pounds of propellant. NASA, though, saying, oh gosh, we don't really normally get this weather in Florida, so I don't think any of us are prepared for it. So they went ahead and just delayed that rocket test. They're going to delay it right now for 48 hours, and so likely we could see it maybe next week. They're thinking probably February 8th or so. So, I just think it's really interesting because sometimes when you're covering these stories or we see something and say, oh, that's only happened in one part of the country. But we do know that has certainly been a tricky time for, everybody's kind of trying to navigate this winter storm. And I think a lot of us are just in that moment of, oh, gosh, can we get through it? Well, we've made it to Friday, so congratulations. Let's celebrate that, right? But, I hope you have a good weekend. And I hope you join us here at 10 and 11, too, as well, because we're going to be covering a lot more stories in our newscast. There's a lot going on in our communities, of course. One thing in mind happening this weekend, the WSAZ Invitational, the wrestling tournament. It's brought thousands of student athletes to Huntington to compete on the mat. So we heard Joseph Payton was live there this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, as the middle school matches were wrapping up this evening. And so, that's one thing. If you don't have anything to do this weekend, hey, check it out. It'll be happening tomorrow as the championship rounds kick off. But please use this time as that weekend to reset. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope you join me at 10 and 11. Thanks so much, everybody.